All right, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here at the beginning of Lancer Maker Week. And what I wanted to focus on today was hacking tech specifically. We've had kind of an amazing week here in Lansing. There's been some cool stuff around the libraries. I know there's an awesome talk on 3D printing tomorrow. But what I wanted to focus on today is kind of the tech aspect. I do work for Microsoft. My name is Jennifer Marsman, and I work for Microsoft. And so I think there's kind of a lot of crossover between tech and what we do with makers. So I'll get into that. My name is Jennifer Marsman. I am a developer evangelist. I know that's a very ridiculous title, but it's actually one of the coolest jobs in the company. My job is that I get to learn all of Microsoft's cool new technology for developers, and then I get to go out and talk to people about it. So I'm paid to learn all the cool new stuff and then speak at conferences and blog and webcast and tweet. So yeah, it's pretty fun. So I do have a blog and I am on Twitter, so feel free to reach out afterwards if there's any questions that weren't answered or things like that. Okay, so let's talk about hacking tech. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the differences, or some of the kind of the similarities rather, between makers and what I call hackers. And so to do that, I wanted to kind of define what I mean by a hacker. Mark Zuckerberg, who is the founder of Facebook, wrote kind of an open letter to Facebook developers, which was shared online. And in it, he made a whole bunch of statements about what he called the hacker way. And I pulled some excerpts out of here because they're very much aligned with what I believe a hacker to be. The first point that I wanted to make is that I don't mean hacker in the negative connotation. I think hacker very much has the negative connotation of these people, you know, in a dark basement, and they're breaking into computers and doing all kinds of illegal things, and it's a very negative connotation. And I don't mean it as such. I really mean hacker to be someone who wants to build something, who wants to get their hands dirty, build prototypes, and create in the context of computing. And so that's one huge point. Another big point that I wanted to make is around the point that he calls out that hacking is inherently a hands-on and active discipline, right? So instead of everyone getting together and having meetings and saying, I think it should be this way, I think it should be that way, and then people just kind of arguing, and whoever either argues the best or whoever's the loudest oftentimes would win, and that's a horrible way to be. It's better to just, okay, let's prototype, let's build something, let's test it. Let's gather market research or get performance numbers and try these different things out and just kind of play. So it's that spirit of hacking that I think is the same spirit that I find with the makers. It's almost a touch of whimsy sometimes, but you're in there, you're building something, you're creative, you're curious, you want to know what's going to happen. And so that's something that I'm really excited about, and something I think the hacker community and the maker community very much have in common. So feel free to look up more. There's a whole bunch of other great stuff in kind of his definition of the hacker way. You can find it if you search using your favorite search engine, Bing. And you should be able to find, if you search for hacker way, Mark Zuckerberg, you should be able to find kind of the whole letter, because he makes a bunch of other great points too around like the importance of continuous improvement, getting something out there and just keep trying. And that's actually a great point. Like when I first started at Microsoft, one of the things, or one of the trouble that a lot of kind of new employees face would be what my boss called paralysis by analysis. And what that means is you have a bunch of very smart people that were hired at Microsoft. We're all like completely type A, and we just got out of college, so we know all of these algorithms. And so we go in there and we're like, okay, oh my gosh, I need to do this the very, very best way. And we're used to problem sets where there is a right answer and a wrong answer, and this is the best way, this is the optimal path. And then you get out there in the real world, and there is no right answer, right? There's no optimal path. So the best way to do it is to just try something, and if it's not working well, improve it, that continuous iteration. And so that can kind of combat that paralysis by analysis of, oh, I could do this, or I could do that, or I could do that, and then you just never do anything because you're so paralyzed of all these different options and trying to figure out which one is the best. So get your hands dirty and build something. And that is very much the spirit that I found at the makerspace. So I was very fortunate. I apologize, this is kind of a silly photo, but this is the only photo I have of us at the makerspace. But Betsy Weber and Nick Kawakowski, did I say it right? Close enough, not even close probably. But I was very fortunate to get a tour of the Lansing Makerspace, and if you have not been there, you need to go. It is absolutely amazing. So the first floor is filled with these incredible demos and things that people have made. So there's this amazing, I don't want to give them all away, but I'll hint. If you like Tetris, if you like the idea of a dueling wand, if you like, exercise bikes, there's a lot of cool stuff to do there. So go check it out. You'll learn something, and you'll just be amazed by what people here in Lansing are creating. And then that's the first floor with some completed demos. The second floor has a whole bunch of different tools that people are welcome to use. So there is, I think right there in that picture, we were looking at the laser cutters where you could imprint various things in metal or wood, or just make beautiful designs. There are also 3D printers, and we're going to have an amazing keynote on 3D printing tomorrow night as part of the Lansing Maker Week. And there was also things with, weaving and a spinning wheel, and being able to kind of create in that space. And then as well as things like woodworking, metalworking, jewelry, all kinds of stuff. So no matter what your passion is, you don't have to be, a computer dork, maker like me. You could have passions in a lot of different areas, but there's a lot of things that you can go ahead and make there. So definitely go and check it out. All right, so on that note, I'm going to tangent before I jump into the actual making thing. One of the things I mentioned that they have at the Lansing Makerspace is a jewelry and a metalworking space. And after Nick and Betsy showed me this space, I went home, and then the next day I woke up and I was still thinking about it, oh my goodness, if I lived in Lansing and I could just pop over there on my lunch hour, what are the things I would want to build? And I kept thinking of ideas. And one of the ideas that I was really excited about, but unfortunately I don't have a gift in this space. Again, I'm good at the computer stuff, but not so much in metalworking or jewelry. But one thing that I would love to see happen is this. So does anybody have one of these? All these people, wrists are coming up in the audience. This is the Fitbit Flex, and it is a great tool for keeping in shape. Specifically what it does is count your steps. So as you move through the day, it kind of keeps track of your steps, and then you can go online and see the number of steps you've taken and things like that. So it records it for you, transfers it online and stuff like that. And it is an awesome thing. It's been great for me. There's also a social aspect. So you can have Fitbit friends and then kind of compete against each other to see who can walk the most. So it kind of motivates you and challenges you to beat your friends and stay the most in shape. And I find it I use it in a very specific way. I work from home, and I am a computer person. So what that means is that there are some days when I wake up, get out of bed, walk downstairs, do this for a couple hours, usually 10 hours a day, I'm doing this. And then, but sometimes, my daughter gets home from school off the school bus, and I look, and I've taken, 2,000 steps the entire day. And that is disgusting, you guys. That is not nearly as active as human beings are meant to be. And so for me, it was a great kind of wake-up call of, oh my goodness, how active have I been today? Was I out meeting with clients and stuff, or was I just home, doing my prototyping or things like that? And so it's a great reminder to kind of look at my wrist and be like, oh, I have not, moved around enough today, and I'll jump on the treadmill that evening or something like that. So it is a great tool for me to help keep me in shape. And it's also the competing aspect. So I have a sister who's a nurse, and a sister who's a teacher, and a sister who lives in New York City where they don't have cars and they walk everywhere. So I am constantly being creamed by my sisters, one who lives in New York and the other two who walk as part of their jobs. Like a nurse is always on their feet and a teacher are always on their feet. So I am constantly just getting, doing horribly. So gotta stay motivated somehow. So I want every single step I can. But there are occasions when I am meeting with a client, for example, with Microsoft, and so instead of dressing like this, I have to wear my grown-up clothes and look like an adult and have dress up a little fancy. Or let's say you're going to a wedding or any kind of occasion where you'd want to wear more formal attire. This doesn't look good, right? I don't like this rubbery kind of thing on my wrist. I want something that looks a little fancier. And so something that I would love to make is a metal just kind of bracelet or any kind of jewelry or bracelet that would hold the Fitbit Flex. There's a little thing inside. This is the actual tracker, and it needs to be able to come out because you need to actually be able to charge this. But it's a little tracker that you put in and out. And so it would need to be designed so that way you have a way to have it in and out. And there is actually something that that Fitbit created themselves They just released kind of the first one, and it is this Tory Burch for Fitbit bracelet that looks something like this. And that's a great bracelet, but it is also $200. And I think that's just a little much. It's $195 to be honest, but with tax and with shipping, it's going to be $200. So I think a lot of what you're paying for is the designer name, right? And I personally don't care about the designer name. So like I would love to, go into the Lansing makerspace and figure out, so I don't know how to do jewelry working, but figure out how to do that and be able to take create something where I could have the Fitbit on my wrist and have it look like a pretty piece of jewelry and be able to wear it anywhere on any occasion, even if I'm wearing formal wear. So if anyone out there is good at metalworking and jewelry and wants to teach me, awesome, I'd love to learn. Otherwise, if someone else wants to do this, I know there's a kind of a startup weekend, this weekend, so free idea. If somebody wants to go ahead and make a business out of this, I'm going to put it out there. Just let me be one of your beta testers, okay? Because I want this very badly. Okay, so now we're going to get back to tech. That was just a total tangent because it was something that got me really excited just from visiting the makerspace. All right, so now let's get to some hacks. Let's get down to the technology part that I, as a Microsoft dork, like to focus on. The first one I want to show you is this. This is a little something that is kind of just a complete hack. Talk about kind of that spirit of whimsy and fun and building something. What this is it's very, the UI isn't great, but this is something that was created by a guy by the name of Evan Johnston. I can't take credit for it, even though I'd like to. And what it is it's something that will capture your the video from your webcam. So I can hit capture and start a webcam, and I'm going to say yes, it's okay to access my personal stuff, my webcam data. And so now you can see me in here a little bit. Hi, or make it a little bit more like that. Okay, cool. And so you can see there's actually some toggles on the side that say red and blue. And notice it's a little offset here. And does that remind anyone of anything? 3D glasses, right? 3D. So let me just pass these around really, really quick and take a look at this. Just take a look at this. Roar. Brains. Pass them around so everybody gets like a second to look at it. Roar. Me want brains. How cool is that, right? You can actually see the 3D. And all that's happening there is it is a stream of my webcam that has overlaid red, another stream overlaid blue, and then we're offsetting them enough to make, an actual 3D. So you can see boom, 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 boom. Okay, I will need those 3D glasses back when you guys are done. But that just kind of gives you a little something to see. Like, how cool of a hack is that, right? You really haven't lived until you've seen yourself in 3D. Believe me, I spent 2 in the morning. I had a cup of coffee, and I was having a lot of fun one night just doing stupid things. So very, very cool. So a great example of just a fun hack that you could build. All right, let me go. But wait, there's more. Now, I felt bad because I have actually demonstrated this before. I think I demoed that 3D webcam before at a Lansing demo camp, which is another one of the great events that we do here in Lansing. And so when I was asked to do this, I'm like, okay, I want to show that again because I think it's really cool and fun, but you guys in Lansing deserve better. I want some original new content tonight. So I was thinking, okay, the other night, had a cup of coffee. This is probably 11 p.m., which is my most creative time. Got a cup of coffee, started thinking, okay, what should I make? And I started thinking about all these amazing things that we have out there, like there's Give Camp, which does all these great charitable work, creating applications and websites and such for nonprofits that we do here in Lansing. And I thought of Code Michigan, which is this other amazing event that we have here in Lansing, which is where people use Michigan government data to create really cool applications that can hopefully help drive Michigan's economy forward with all these cool, startup ideas and such that come out of it. Like for example, one of the things, like they have crime data in Michigan, and I travel a lot for my job. So just having a mobile app where it uses the GPS location from here and just tell me, am I in a safe area where if I stop, is this a good place to get gas, or should I drive a little bit further and, get gas somewhere else? So just as a, woman who kind of travels a lot on her own, that is an awesome, awesome idea. And you could utilize some of that, government data that the Michigan, you can find through here to build something like that, build an application like that. And see, okay, here's the different crime rates in different areas, and know how safe of an area I'm in, and be able to choose where to stop and get gas accordingly. So when you're traveling throughout. So a lot of cool things. So I'm thinking of all these great things, like to give back to the world and to drive the economy forward and all this stuff. And I had another cup of coffee and another, and I'm still thinking of ideas. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, what would be really cool? Harry Potter's sorting hat. Completely not of any value at all to the world. I apologize. I'm like, I want to do something cool, something that gives back. And then I'm like, oh, what would be really cool? Sorting hat. So I'm sorry, this is what we ended up with, people, is sorting hat. So let me demonstrate this for you first. I even have a stool to sit on. In the actual Harry Potter, they do actually sit on a stool when they're being sorted by the sorting hat. So I built something. I'll explain it to you in just a second, but let me demo it for you first. But this is what the sorting hat looks like. Now the sorting hat is actually supposed to be raggedy looking in this thing, so I didn't worry about dressing it up, but I'll talk about it a little more in 1 second. But let's see the moment of truth, guys. All right, I'm being sorted. Here we go. Let me make sure it's kind of on tight, and then
Ravenclaw.
I got it a Ravenclaw! Yeah, just what I wanted. That's where the smart people go. Cool. All right, so let me show you a little bit about this. Here's what I actually built. I'll get to this in a second. So I started out with the Intel Galileo board. Someone had just given me an Intel Galileo board, and I really wanted to play with it. So kind of after that first cup of coffee, I was trying to think of ideas of things to use with the Galileo board. And so I got the sorting hat idea. And I was like, okay, I could use kind of an accelerometer sensor or something on the Galileo board, and then maybe send it up to the cloud, and then I'd have to get it back somehow, or somehow do the speech, and I didn't know what was going on. And then I'm like, had another cup of coffee, and I was like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense at all, because on my phone, so I'm running, this is a Windows phone that's running Windows Phone 8.1, and it has both an accelerometer on it, which is what I wanted to use to kind of figure out which house to sort people into. And it has text-to-speech capabilities, so I could put some text and then have it say it, all in Windows 8.1. So I ended up deciding, okay, let's just make it a phone app that's so much easier, kind of in that whole spirit of making and prototyping and getting something out quickly. So that's what I ended up doing. So this is using the accelerometer to determine what house to sort you into. And the way it works is actually based on the angle that your head is tilted. Because one of my requirements was I wanted it to be deterministic, because I did not want to be sorted into Hufflepuff in front of a group of people. That would have been embarrassing. So to take a step back, for those of you not familiar with the Harry Potter world, what this actually does is there is, in Harry Potter, there is 4 houses at this Hogwarts school of witchcraft and wizardry. And so any magical student gets to go to this school, and then on your very first year at the beginning, you get to put on the sorting hat, and then the hat talks. It speaks out loud and tells you which of these 4 houses you're sorted into. And the 4 houses are Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Slytherin, and Ravenclaw. And then each of the houses are kind of known for different things. And Ravenclaw is the smart people house, so that's the one that I kind of like. And Harry Potter is a Gryffindor, and that one's bravery, and that sort of thing, and loyalty and such. And so that is another kind of thing. I think most people would want to be sorted into those 2 houses. And so because of that, I put those as the ones that are like this and like tilted like this. So if the Z direction is more like this, that will put you in Ravenclaw. If it's tilted more like this, it'll put you in Gryffindor, because I figure people are probably going to either wear the hat mostly, either on your head like this or kind of forward like this, where you're kind of putting it on your head. And then the 2 sideways accelerations will put you in Slytherin and Hufflepuff, because those are the Slytherin people are kind of they're not all bad, but a lot of them tend to be evil in the book, and then Hufflepuff are kind of the others. So I thought people would be less excited about that. So I'm happy to let people try this on and play with it themselves afterwards. And then when I was thinking about kind of making it, or here, I can demonstrate that a little bit if you want to see it one more time. But I stick it in. I made a little pocket, which I'll show you in a second. But if I put it on again, and then I was playing with voice recognition, but if I do it like this, I should sort into Gryffindor. So let's try it one more time. What are we going to get?
Ravenclaw.
Oh, it was not tilted the right angle. So I got to move it a little bit more forward, and then that should do Gryffindor.
Gryffindor.
There we go, Gryffindor. And then to the sideways, so if you're kind of like more like this kind of a thing, it should go one of the others.
Hufflepuff.
Hufflepuff, there you go. And then the other way. So you could then kind of cheat with who you want to be, and I wanted to be able to cheat. So I wanted a deterministic one so I could force it to what I wanted. So once I kind of got the code written, so all I was doing is then using the accelerometer and using the direction that it was kind of tilted to determine what I wanted it to say. And then I would use the text-to-speech and I built in a little pause for dramatic effect, because it used to be, right now it's based on just touching this, we'll start it. And I put in a 3, 2, 1, because I think just touching it and then having it say right away was less exciting. You want a little bit of dramatic build up. So I stuck a wait in there as well. And then I used the text-to-speech capabilities in Windows 8.1 to have it say the name of the house. And then when it came to building it, so there's hats like on Amazon, like witch hats on Amazon for like less than $5, especially right now around Halloween. There's a lot of them available. So you can go buy a hat on Amazon if you desire. This one is actually one of my kids' hats from Halloween from a couple of years ago, and it's got this pretty like crushed velvet on the outside, and I didn't want to ruin it with duct tape, so I actually flipped it inside out, which is in the movie or in the books. The Harry Potter, the Sorting Hat's supposed to be all kind of grungy looking and yucky anyway, so I thought, oh, this actually looks better. It looks more like a Sorting Hat because you got this little stuff on top and kind of yuckiness right here, so that was good. And then what I did is I just used duct tape to make a little pocket. So I duct taped it across here, and then I also put duct tape this way on the side, so that way you wouldn't get like stickiness when you stuck your phone in there. I didn't want it to stick right here, get anything yucky on the phone. So I put a little more duct tape this way as well, just in the middle, so it had a little pocket. And then I did the same thing to make a little pocket on the top as well, so it would be in there, because if I was going to let people use it afterwards, I didn't want anybody to drop my phone. So that gave it a little more security. And I originally was thinking to put like another thing on the back and maybe stick like a deck of cards or something in there, because I thought it would need a counterweight. Like I didn't think it would balance that well. Just like this on my head, just sticking it like this, I thought it would for sure need something on the back too to hold it stable. But like I again, spirit of just trying and hacking and giving it a try, and I tried it, and actually it's pretty stable, just like that. So yeah, so it worked. So we just ended up doing it like that, and yeah, so I didn't end up doing and then the final touch was the duct tape was like a gray regular duct tape, right? And that looked kind of yucky, so I took a black Sharpie and colored it black, and then it kind of blended in a little more and it's less obvious. So yeah, so that was how I did it. It was very, very simple. Now this is nothing compared to what we're seeing in like the Lansing makerspace. So this is like child's play next to that. But that's what 17 cups of coffee will get you in one evening. So ta-da, a sorting hat. The spirit of making. All right. So one last thing I wanted to show and talk about is all of the different types of hardware. Like when you do think about hacking and making and what are the cool things that I can do and build, especially in the technology space, I wanted to mention a couple of these other things that are fun to play with. The first two, a Raspberry Pi and the Intel Galileo board, those are examples of little boards where you can actually build things. So you can connect sensors to them and make them do a lot of different things. They're essentially kind of small. The Raspberry Pi is almost like a little mini computer, and there's displays and sensors and stuff that you can hook to them, and then it has some processing power and a little bit of space and stuff like that. So these kind of everything on here is roughly in order of how expensive they are. A Raspberry Pi is like, I think it's $25 for the Model A and $35 for the Model B, and an Intel Galileo board is roughly 70-ish, I think, $70-ish. But both of them there's pros and cons to each, but there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with those, especially when it comes to the whole Internet of Things movement. I don't know if you guys are all familiar with that, but kind of the concept of smart things, like having a connected refrigerator that will, send when it sees that I'm running low on milk, will go ahead and add milk to the shopping list that's on my phone. Me and my husband always we have a shared shopping list on our phone that we always use. And so things like that can do smart things, and sensors, maybe light awareness in my garden, and other cool things that you can do. So there's just the possibilities are absolutely endless with those things. So Raspberry Pi and Intel Galileo board, awesome things. And then there's 3 other pieces of cool hardware that aren't just regular boards, but kind of do additional things. So I want to talk to you briefly about the Knapp sensor, the Oculus Rift, and the Emotive. So the first 2, the Knapp sensor and the Oculus Rift, I put a demonstration or pictures of them up here. That's the Knapp sensor. We make it for Xbox, which some of you may be familiar with. Microsoft makes the Kinect. Oculus makes this something called the Oculus Rift, and they've been bought by Facebook, I believe. So what these 2 things are is the Kinect sensor is actually a really cool piece of technology from Microsoft that uses vision-based things to, so when you use it in conjunction with the Xbox, the Xbox sensor is kind of sitting with the Xbox, and here's my TV, and I'm playing, and instead of needing a controller, what it does is it's pointed at me, and it's got a little camera right there. And so what you have the ability to do is, like if I'm playing, I don't know, a rowing game, like where I'm rowing down doing like a canoeing game, I can just go like this with my arms, and it sees what I'm doing, and then my avatar, my character in the game, will be rowing. And so there's all these really cool applications, because of course in games you can be like and then have your own boxing game, and then your avatar is actually doing what you're doing on the screen, and very cool. So a lot of fun applications for games, but there's actually some very useful applications in other things as well for the Kinect. For example, think about things like physical therapy, right? If I don't have a physical therapist with me, I have to take my physical therapy home. Think about, I don't know, maybe I just had, rotator cuff surgery or something, and I need to do exercises where I'm supposed to lift to 90 degrees, but not above. It's actually really bad to lift above 90 degrees at that point. So with it watching me, it can actually kind of monitor what you're doing and say, red X is no, don't do that, and have show me like what I'm supposed to be doing and follow, and then correct me when I'm doing something wrong. So great application there in the healthcare. And then there's actually a class at the University of Michigan. I apologize for saying this in the middle of Spartyville, but there's actually a class at the University of Michigan taught by a professor named David Chesney, which is amazing. In his class, people use the Kinect and other things to develop applications for social good, and usually around autism. And so they kind of study autism, and they bring a medical specialist in to speak about autism, and then they all think of different applications that they can create that will help, help with various aspects of autism. So things like if you're, it's hard to make eye contact and stuff, then in that scenario there can be a game where you have to it forces you to make eye contact, like what is the color of their eyes, and then you have to see the color of their eyes, or you have to look, and they can actually use the facial tracking to see that they're doing the right things and reward them when they're doing the right things. So there's a lot of different applications, just amazing number of applications. So that is the Microsoft Kinect. It uses vision, it uses a camera to do really cool things. You can use it in conjunction with Windows, just with a machine, or you can use it with the Xbox as well. All right, so that's that. And then the other thing is the Oculus Rift. This is also an amazing piece of technology. So what this is a headset for virtual reality. And what it does is it actually uses head motion as well to change your view. So I had the occasion to use one at MHAX, which I'll tell you more about in a second. But you put it on, and then I was looking at a virtual world. So I think I was probably using one of the default ones, but it was like an office space. And so I was looking straight ahead, and if I looked down, I would see a desk. Like there was a desktop right there with a blotter and like I think a cup of coffee and like a real like desk, and it looked like a desk, and I was right in front of a desk. And then I look up, and it's office walls, and there was a clock right there, and maybe a potted plant right there. And then I could actually turn all the way around me and look behind me, and there was a filing cabinet behind me and stuff. So this was a complete 360-degree experience. I was in a virtual world, and it could tell by how I moved my head, that it was supposed to be displaying the different places. So it was a completely immersive virtual reality experience. Very cool. All right, so that's what this does, and that's what that does. Now, at MHAX, which is a large student-run hackathon, that's been going on at University of Michigan for some time, and there are students from Michigan State who came and participated and did amazing things there too, so it's not specific to the University of Michigan. All kinds of great students were coming there from universities all over the place to participate. And there were so many amazing projects there, you guys. I don't want you to think I liked this one better than the other ones, because I could talk for 3 hours about some of the cool things that these students built. But I want to specifically focus on this one because it uses these two technologies that I wanted to highlight. And so what they built was this. It was actually it was a way for two people, I'm sorry, not really two people to meet each other, but it was a way for a person to meet another person in a virtual world. Okay, so here's how they did it. I'm going to use a real example of people, because otherwise it's going to get too confusing, because I'm going to be trying to act this out using interpretive dance here. But how it worked is there are two people. So I'm going to use Betsy as my other user. So let's pretend Betsy, I wanted to meet Betsy in this virtual world. So what would happen is that Betsy would sit down in the chair in front of a Connect. And so the Connect also does depth perception, right? So it can tell that it uses kind of cameras to figure out where people are, and so it could see that I'm right here and there's this background behind me and stuff, but it kind of has the ability to recognize different depths. And so because of that, you can almost get a green screen effect where it can see that I'm right here and this is all behind me, so I'm just going to take all of that out of the equation. So what it did is the Connect piece actually parsed me out of my background in the vision that it was seeing and took an image of me. Then they took that image and stuck it into the virtual world. So if I'm sorry, I was using me instead of Betsy, but so let's say I'm the one in front of the Connect. So I'm sitting in a chair in front of the Connect, it's looking at me, and I'm like right here. And then let's say Betsy puts on the Oculus Rift, and what she would see that is this office environment where, filing cabinet behind you, potted plants, desk, actual cup of coffee, and then sitting across the desk from her would be me, like right there, as I am sitting in the chair. And in real time, I could wave or whatever, and Betsy would see me waving through her Oculus Rift. It was the most amazing thing. It was so cool, just so cool. For coolness points, it was just off the charts. It was amazing. I had to I sat and I had the thing and I didn't want to take it off. It was so neat. And so one of the developers actually was the one sitting in the connection waving at me and stuff, and I was in this world, and it was oh my gosh, we're in this, it was so cool. So anyway, I did want to call that out. And they do have a website. They called the name of the student project was Converge, so I did want to give them a little bit of credit. It's Converge without the E, and then it is .co. I know it looks like a mistake and that it's .com and I forgot the M, but it really is a .co. So that's some of what they were working on. So really, really cool stuff, and you can go to their website and see more information about what they're trying to do with that. But a really great project that came out of MHACs. So these student hackathons, great way to get your hands dirty and try things out. And a lot of great stuff coming out of the University of Michigan and Michigan State and a lot of other great universities that were there. Okay, so we saw Connect, which is incredible. We saw Oculus Rift, which is incredible. One last thing that I want to talk about is something called emotive. So this is something that I feel has not gotten nearly enough press as it needs to get. Again, this isn't a Microsoft thing. This is a company called Emotive. It was started by a woman, yay, by the name of Tan Lee. And what it is, there's an actual headset. There's an Epic headset, and then there's a new kind of Insight headset. So there's actually a couple different headsets that they're selling now. But it actually goes on your head like that, and it will read your brain waves. It will read those electrical impulses in your brain. And there's actually various APIs then in a software development kit so that you can code to that and create things based on your mind, things in your mind. I know, right? Is that not amazing? So I'm not going to do it justice, so let me actually show you. I'm going to jump to a TED Talk that Tan Lee gave and just show you a couple examples of kind of starting this up. So what she's doing, let me actually set it up so that way I don't talk over her. So what she's going to do here is, the first thing I'm going to show is her actually working with someone, a guy who is, I noticed that they always choose bald men to do the demos. So I'm guessing it works better on your head if you don't have hair. The sensors probably grab a little better, because in most of the demos it seems to be coincidentally seems to be a bald guy doing it. But so she's going to work with a guy, and he's going to have the headset on. And then what we're doing is basically a little bit of machine learning, where there's a training set and then a test set. So she's going to kind of, have the headset on. It's going to show kind of at a neutral, when he's not thinking about anything, this is what his brainwaves look like. And then he's going to put it on, and they're going to do a test set, or I'm sorry, a training set. In that training set, he is going to train, so it's going to be for the pull object he's going to choose, and so he's going to envision in his head pulling something towards him. Just think about that. And then it's going to map this pull action to whatever he is thinking about at the time. And he doesn't even necessarily have to be thinking about pulling something. He could be thinking about a dog, doesn't matter. But whatever he's thinking about, it will capture those impulses, and then if he thinks that same thing again, whether it be pulling or a dog or whatever, it's then mapped to that action of pull, and it will pull towards you. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So let me show you how. First, I'm going to show you this kind of training test set. He's going to train it first, and then he's actually going to do it. And then I'm going to jump ahead in the video a little bit and show you some examples of cool technology that is actually kind of relevant and useful, other than just controlling things with your mind, which is just fun.
But with the limited time we have available, I want to show you the cognitive suite, which is the ability for you to basically move virtual objects of the mind. Now, Evan is new to the system, so what we have to do first is create a profile for him. He's obviously not Joanne, so we'll add user, Evan.
So we're at our bald guy, Evan.
What we need to do in the cognitive suite is to start with training a neutral signal. With neutral, there's nothing in particular that Evan needs to do. He just hangs out.
So he's just thinking about nothing, not thinking about anything in particular, and the maps to neutral.
It takes 8 seconds to do this. And now that that's done, we can choose a movement-based action. So Evan, choose something that you can visualize clearly in your mind.
So he needs to visualize pulling, he says.
So the idea here now is that Evan needs to imagine the object coming forward into the screen, and there's a progress bar that will scroll across the screen while he's doing that. The first time, nothing will happen because the system has no idea how he thinks about pull.
That's the training.
Maintain that thought for the entire duration of the 8 seconds.
So for 8 seconds, he's envisioning pulling that cube towards him in his head. And it takes 8 seconds to do the training in the way. This is the cognitive suite.
Okay.
All right, and it's saved off.
Except this. The cube is live, so let's see if Evan...
Now he needs to think the same thing, envision pulling it. And whoa, how cool is that, right? He just controlled a cube with his mind. Those same series of electrical impulses and brain waves that it kept up, it grabbed again, and so it again envisioned that. All right? Very, very cool stuff. So I'm going to skip. You can watch this entire TED Talk in its entirety is available online. I'm happy to give the link to anybody who wants it. But I want to just jump ahead and show some of the practical applications of this. So like right around here-ish maybe. To show you some of the cool things. So not only cognitive suites, there's also facial recognition. So he's smiling and not smiling and controlling his personality. Can you see? He's actually going like this and in the game lifting something. That is actually really cool. Let me talk about that. Did you see what he said? Or what she just said was that it can use your emotion to dynamically change things in the game, because maybe he was in a bad mood and it started getting darker in the game or something like that. But can you imagine like the implications of that? Like, let's say I'm playing a video game and I'm starting to get bored. Like, it can tell my brainwaves are starting to get less excited and that I'm like more not challenged or excited or something anymore, or have a lion jump out, right? Or do something. Like, you could dynamically change things in a video game to make it more exciting based on how the user is interacting with it at that level. Like, how cool is that? So cool, so cool. Okay.
With robots and simple machines, for example, in this case, flying a toy helicopter simply by thinking lift.
So he's using something in the physical world. Flying a real helicopter by going like this. Do some Jedi mind tricks. Very nice. In this case, it's wired to home automation. So he's able to, using his mind, close his curtains and turn on his lights.
And of course also to the lighting. Turn them on or off.
So he's using various things. Now, this is awesome.
Life-changing applications, such as being able to control an electric wheelchair. In this example, facial expressions in that to move the camera.
Now blink right to go right.
So it recognizes blinks and smiles. So when he blinks to the right, it will turn the wheelchair right. When he blinks left, it will turn the wheelchair left. And when he smiles, it makes the wheelchair move forward.
Now smile, look straight.
We are really
How cool is that, right? I kind of want to break out into applause myself. Like when you think about the potential implications for someone who's, paralyzed, I mean, that could be something, just using their mind, they could be able to control this. Like, that's amazing. So great, great, great implications besides just like the cool things you can do with games and home automation and all that stuff, which is cool too. But I think there's real world things as well to like truly help people. All right, so that is emotive. All right. So yes, I'm sorry I went there. Maker's gotta make. Sorry. It's been stuck in my head for like, after like the 20th cup of coffee, we got to that point. So go out and make something. I hope I've been able to inspire some of you and kind of show you some of the cool things you can do with technology. There are so many great options out there, so many cool pieces of hardware to integrate with, so many cool things to make. So please, I hope people are able to get out there, participate in the Lansing Startup Weekend, and really, create something amazing. Thank you.